I am really, really happy to say that I have Megan Kelly today who's agreed to talk to us. I'm going to let Megan introduce herself, but Megan is someone who is very, very inspirational to me, and I'm sure she'll have some
thanks, Hannah.
Great stuff to share with everyone. That
I hope
you will. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Megan.
So, yeah, that's fine, Han. So I'm Megan. I've been a coach for the last 6 years now. I've used kettlebells for about 10 years in my own training, and I just got into them so much. I was like, people need to know about these, so I started teaching that, kind of got into a bit more barbell stuff, but my specialism is, I would say, kettlebells. In 2017, I was trying to remember which year, then it seems like ages ago, I achieved a world record in kettlebell swings, which I'm currently training to get back. So training's very fun. I've just trained this morning, very long, but yeah, it's all good.
So so a record in kettlebell swings? I know obviously a little bit about it, but yeah. What did that involve? So
it was I always get the name wrong of it. It was the most amount of kilos lifted in an hour by a kettlebell swing, for the female one. So I was basically raising money for the MS Society, and my dad had MS, and I did this huge this charity day, and I was like, right, let's do 12 hours of kettlebell swings, just thinking, oh yeah, this will be really fun. All my clients, if they watch this, will be like, yeah, Megan's version of fun. It's not fun. The rules are so we had to be swinging the kettlebell between a group of us for 12 hours, and that was nothing to do with the record. And I was just like, let's raise loads of money and do it like that. So we kind of put a day on and had someone to do 10 swings. We just made up loads of stuff for them to do, and then as they put it down, someone else would. And we had this rota, and there was an hour over lunchtime that was really quiet, and I was like, let's just go for a world record. And it kind of came about like that, but it was kind of the charity event was one thing, and then I was like, well, let's just go for it and see, and get that might get people down to help with the rest of the afternoon. And so I was like, let's go for it. And then kind of suddenly realised I'd signed up to do a world, and I was like, whoa, what is going on? Signed up to do this record, and I was a bit like, oh god. And started training for it. I think it was about May time of 2017 for it to happen in July, and I was a bit now as I started training for it, I was a bit like, yeah, that I actually don't know how I did it. But I had sort of a baseline sort of condition, so I'd done kettlebells at that point for maybe 6 years, probably 6-7 years, so I did have that baseline conditioning, but then upping the volume to that amount. I was used to kind of doing on the minute stuff, but going sort of I was basically doing 20 reps a minute for an hour, and doing that made me really realize that actually fatigue builds up quickly. So I learned a lot in that. I kind of went about it wrong, and then started reading more in strong endurance, and was like, right, okay, I'm going to go with that. And at the end, we got there, did it, hands tore, but all good. Raised a lot of money. I think we raised $5,000 or something for the MS Society. So that was my main part of the day. And then I was kind of like, that's the end of that. I've got a world record. That's cool. Raised a load of money. And then it got taken. I think it was this year's totally blurred my mind. I've no idea. Last August 2019. And then I messaged Pavel Satsaline and just said, this is what's happened, because I'd met him at a strong endurance event, and he was just like, I want a program for you to get back. And I was a bit like, wow, what? And I was kind of at the time like, do I want to get back? And then I was like, yeah, I'm not competitive at all, and that's not why I train, but I was like, okay, let's go for it, raise more money. That was more why I'm doing it. So
amazing. So you're currently training still for
yeah, so I attempted it in March this year, literally the week before lockdown in the UK, and I got, I think, 828 swings, I think it was, and I was going for 1,000. So basically my hand, this was my hand from the first time. It was this hand that tore this time, and it was just the volume over the period. I'd kind of got, I was doing it exactly the same, so I was doing 10 swings every 30 seconds, and I got about 30 minutes in, I think, and my hand tore, which happened last time, and I was fully expecting it to happen. I kind of never let it happen in training, but I thought, right, this volume's gonna definitely cause a tear, but I expected it to kind of be near the end, which is what happened last time, so last 10 minutes. And they think now, because of the alcohol gel, because I was having to use loads and loads of alcohol gel in and out of the gym for like a couple of weeks before, and my hands just went from being like really solid to just really, really soft, which was there was nothing I could do about it. It was the gym regulation, and rightly so. But it was just, yeah, my hands got really soft, and I carried on going. I was like, right, I'm here now. If anything, I'll get a personal best. And loads of my clients were there, friends and stuff, and I was like, I'm just going to go for it, and I'll learn a lot. I was like, I'll learn what happened, and it just more like mental strength. I was like, the pain, I cannot tell you how much the pain, like on this hand.
I can only imagine, having ripped my hands before and got down.
And I just so basically, because it was half an hour, I was getting kind of like 6 or 7 reps if I was lucky every 30 seconds rather than 10. So there was just, I kind of knew, I don't know if anyone else in the room knew, but I kind of knew, like I was just going on, and people had no idea what I was going for in terms of reps. So I kind of had Maggie behind. She came over to from Manchester to count my reps for me, and they were like strong plus GB and stuff like that. But Maggie was behind, and she still didn't really know, I don't think, what I was going for. I was just like, I'm just going to just be like total poker face and just go for it. And then I did get a personal best. I think I'd only done about 800 with that in that time and stuff. So I was totally happy. And then actually lockdown happened, and I was quite glad, because I just learned so much in that time. And I was like, I'm just going to swing. I'm like stuck at home. I've got my kettlebells, so I'm just going to spend. And I just learned loads more about like my own technique, just various things, and just like I did teach myself more so mental strength. Like, right, that's what hell feels like. Like it literally was. Oh, it was awful. I mean,
that takes I think that mental strength is something, I've seen your videos, and I've seen you start posting and talking about some of your training as well that you do for this, you know, and it isn't the sexy training, is it really, when you think about it? It's very much the same thing, different volumes, different amounts, but you are swinging pretty much a kettlebell most times from what, 30 to 90 minutes at a time?
30 to 90. So it tends to be sort of if I'm using sort of the 44, and if I'm doing on the minute, which is what I did this morning, I can get a fair amount in that with that, so sort of 60 to 90 with the on the minute stuff, but with that weight. But then if I'm doing sort of every 30 seconds with it, it'll be much less. If I'm going lighter, so 36, 40 kilos, I can do a much higher volume every 30 seconds, but it's just, that's kind of like my endurance training. And then the on the minute stuff is more where I'd focus on power. But those sessions are like on the minute, especially when I'm doing like 6 reps today. I did on the minute for 60 minutes. You get quite a long rest, so it's really, really difficult to not be like, right, I'm walking away from the bell, because it's literally like you just stood there. So I try and focus a lot on breathing in that period, and sort of meditating and trying to calm my like heart rate down in the rest. But it really, those sessions, I always say, are much more mental than physical, because I'm like, it's difficult to repeat that power for 60 minutes, but it's not anything like the difficult. You did get into it, and it's like a bit boring, and then but I just try and focus every single rep on what I'm doing. Like, did that feel good? Did that rep lose power? Do I need to? So I just kind of think of it like that. And then if I think of it as like, right, I'm just practicing swings rather than I'm about to do 60 minutes of swings, I think that's hard to get my head around it.
I was just going to say, how do you kind of, you know, because we've all got, you know, done certain training, but to know that you've got 90 minutes of or 60 minutes of swings, it's
the 90 minutes are really like the 90-minute sessions that really drain me mentally. I have to like really gear myself up to do them. I'm like, right, because you just literally, I was trying to do them outside, which you'll see on my Instagram, but like outside so I can look at the view or something, because I'll be like, I know that, especially with certain weights, and if I know the rep range and stuff, I pretty much know if I've had a good night's sleep and eaten well, that it will get to 90 minutes. If it was going to go badly, I'd stop before the 90. But some days I'm just like, nah, this is going to be 90. And then mentally I'm like, oh, this is. But I just like focus every single rep. I'm like, right, my weight shifted forward, I need to move it back. And I'll just literally was like, is that snappy? Was my breathing right? I'll think of it like that, rather than I'm stood here for 90 minutes.
Yeah, and you're very you talk a lot about your training on Instagram, don't you, and your experience, and how you know some days that you're not going to go for that amount of period that you set for, because it doesn't feel right within your body. And that's really difficult, because you're kind of overcoming the ego a little bit, aren't you? Because you want to continue to improve yourself.
It's like, and that massively happened, I was just saying before we started recording, but when my dad died in August, so this was just like 3-4 months ago, and at the time I was like, oh, like, you know, you have that period of time where it's like totally fine, well, everyone's around you, like it doesn't really feel real. And I was just sort of like, oh, like drinking loads, I'm just going to carry on training. And then I got to a point where I was like, I actually can't do this. Like, I was like, my body is literally telling me to stop. And I obviously had spoken to Pavel about this and just said, this is what's going on. My dad's died, blah, blah, blah. And he said, right, we're going way back. So I kind of went back from August. I'd had an amazing summer of training because it was just like really hot. I was like on my own training at home. I got loads of time because obviously lockdown. And then he was like, right, we're going back to where we were like a few months ago. And I was a bit like, oh, like that ego wise, that was difficult because it was like, I was doing this in like April. And the same after my record, I had to obviously take it way back. And it was really, really difficult ego-wise, but I knew, I was like, that needs to happen because I can't carry on at that. Like, I mean, I was doing like 44, it felt like 60, it felt like something ridiculous. And just because I wasn't sleeping and I was drinking more than I would normally. Like, I'd probably normally only drink once a week, but people were around all the time making sure we were okay. And then it was obviously, I had to go through that. And then it was only, I posted, it was either last week or the week before, it was the first time since then that I actually got above and beyond what I'd done before my dad died. But so mentally that was hard to carry on, but I just knew that I was carrying on and I was eventually getting better. So that was hard, but
must have been like you say, you're always learning with this, so that's quite a big learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, and I'll often talk about sort of sleep and stuff and be like, I know full well if I've not slept well or whatever, then they're possibly not going to have a great day's training. But that was huge because it was kind of like I was waking up in the night, and then I really did learn myself like just how much sleep can affect people. And then I was sort of like, that also made me understand stuff that some of my clients were going through a bit more, you know, like, so they were like, some of them have either weird hours at work or they work shifts or just little kids and waking up in the night. And I was kind of like, okay, that's what it feels like when you've had 2 hours sleep. Like, I've not got kids, I've not been through that, and I normally sleep very well. Like, I'm only 30, I don't have any issues usually with that, but yeah, it really made me understand that more as well. And actually, okay, this does make you feel rubbish and you can't lift what you can. And it went, I'm not joking, went from like 90 minutes down to half an hour. And that amount of volume felt like I was doing 90 minutes. It felt very difficult. And my head, I couldn't focus on it. Like, and that's what was hard, because it felt like, okay, that half an hour feels like it's lasting forever because I'm not focusing on what I'm doing really. I'm just kind of swinging. Like, and I'm glad I kept it up, but I did need to hugely take it down. And it was, like I say, only last week or the week before that I actually made any progress on where I was, which was mentally hard, but I knew it was what needed to happen. I totally knew.
And you've been very honest, like you say, you've spoken quite honestly on Instagram about your experience from losing your dad, which I imagine a lot of people will connect to, because, you know, I think, you know, being that honest and open and vulnerable shows as a coach your human side, because we were saying before, weren't we, that you know, like,
it's just like people are like, oh, you just this robotic person. Like, I do, like, if you look at my training, it is very, like you said before, it's very robotic. It's very like you stood there like for that amount of time, and you, every time the buzzer goes 30 seconds, you're doing X amount of swings or on the minute, whatever. But then I am like, just a real person. I built up to that. I haven't got any special powers to make me do that amount of swings. I just basically have gone through all the mistakes. I used to be really bad at swinging. I got like flagged up at my first SFG event for my swing having a bad one, not for a good one, and I just learned from that. But yeah, it was, I felt it was very important for me to show that this is real life. Like, I people knew my dad wasn't well and stuff, but when he actually died, that really hit me more than I thought. So sort of like, oh, he's been ill for so long, I'm kind of used to him not being how he used to be, and but when he actually physically went, that was really, really like, it literally felt like someone stabbed me. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. And I very, very openly talked about it, because I was like, some of my clients lost parents in lockdown, not due to COVID, due to other things, but I was like, this is really important. They're going through it too. I'm going through it. Like, it's totally normal. I was like, if you're crying, it's normal to cry. I'm not sleeping, it's normal to not sleep. Like, and I fully wanted people to know that this is how I've changed my training to to respond to that, but also this is me, like this is what's going on right now, this is really painful. But I just find anything like that really important. Like you have to show that side, because you're not just, yeah, you're a strong woman, but you're not just this like, oh, you're a really strong woman who does world record training all the time and not real. Is that if that makes sense?
Yeah. And we were saying, weren't we, strength comes in lots of different views. So you can be strong for lifting, but you can be like, say, having the strength to say I'm not okay right now, and to speak to dial your training back, you know, having that strength to say I need to go backwards is huge for, and it takes you know, it takes strength and courage. And
and I needed that. I did need my training to continue, in terms of like, I think with most people, that is my, like, that's my time to myself. That's where I let everything out in my training. Obviously I'll speak to my friends and stuff, and that's what my emotional side, but for me physically, I need that training just so that I can have that time to myself and focus on myself. But I knew that I could not have the sessions long, I couldn't have them heavy. So just even having that minute, like some of the days I just was like, I'm doing movement, nothing else, I'm just going to do movement. And just having that little bit of, you know, like a strong body, strong mind, I talk about it all the time, but like just feeling just even strong, even though I was way back from where I was, just having that little bit of time to myself kept me going. And then obviously I said to my clients, I kind of got about a month after it, once the funeral had happened and everything, and then I was like, I actually need to take some time. So I took a week out of work, and they'd been saying to me all along, you'll get to a point where you need to. And then it suddenly just like, it felt like like I said, like being hit. I was like, right, I need this time now. And I felt so much better because I just spent time with friends. I spent time crying and laughing with them, and I fully needed that. But yeah, in terms of training from now onwards, fingers crossed, we're going. I haven't got a date for the record yet, but just because I'm waiting to see what's going on with the restrictions. But I'm thinking maybe March, like a year after I attempted first time, maybe, because hopefully by spring we might be allowed, even if it's outside, just so I have to have an audience. So that's where the issues come from. So yeah, we'll see. But I don't mind. I just, every time I train, I just learn. So I'm just like, the more prepared I am, the more I know about what I'm doing in my own swings. Then even though it's like, oh, you've done thousands, you must know, I'm like, I still, no joke, learn something every session I do. So, no.
It's funny, isn't it? Because obviously we're both kettlebell enthusiasts, and people are like, how can you just use kettlebells? You're like, you learn something every time you use a kettlebell.
Yeah. Every time. Oh, like even today, I swing 44 all the time. But there were certain things where I was like, oh, okay, like adjusting where I was, and just feeling like how deep my hinge was and stuff. I was playing around with that, and I thought that's what keeps me going, interested in it.
Yeah, well, I suppose as well it helps with your coaching, doesn't it? Because, you know, you can, what you've learned about yourself, you can help to relate to others. Yeah. I mean, I know obviously you put a lot of your training out on Instagram, and one of the things is you get people messaging you saying, oh, I tried your session and I hurt my back, and you know, it's taken you a long time to get to where you are. You know, this isn't an overnight thing.
And I did it especially at the start of lockdown, because I thought, I know what's going to happen here. People are going to randomly have a kettlebell at home, and then this is what's going to happen. And I wrote an article. I'm writing another one about my training so far. But when I wrote my first article for my first world record, I was like, I made a huge mistake. I just thought, oh, I can do 20 minutes on the minute, so 60 is going to be fine. Like genuine. And I was like, that was literally me just like not thinking. And I was like, so I held my hands up and said that was absolutely ridiculous, like that was never going to happen. So over time, obviously the fatigue builds up quite a lot, so you might be totally fine for 20, and then 25 you're like, oh my god, my hands, and start to lose power. And so I wrote about that, and I'll openly talk about it as well, like that was a huge mistake on my part. And that's when I started playing around with strong endurance stuff. But same for this, like, so again, I already had that knowledge this time, and I've done it totally differently. But I'll get these messages, and I'm like, oh, people thinking it's hit, and I'm like, it's really not. Like, I could not go for an hour if it was hit. And I just thought at the start of lockdown, this is going to happen. So I did a post then about it, just saying, look, this has literally taken me years of like, I had a baseline conditioning level, but then years of just really specific training to get up. People like, they've got 32 kilo at home and thought, oh, I'll do 12 swings on the minute like I did. And I'm like, I totally love that people are interested in my training, and I'll answer all the questions, and all my posts are to help people get better at that style of training. But I was just like, go back, like do 20 minutes, and then you'll see that after 20 minutes that's enough, because I could repeat the session I did today, tomorrow, and the day after, like, because I've not done it to the point where I'm like wrecked. I feel like I've trained, but I don't feel like I'm going to hurt tomorrow because I stopped before I think, right, that's too far. And that's what's definitely come with practice and me learning a lot and just learning to listen to my body, which has definitely been the hardest. And that goes back to what I said about the grief thing, like that. It was difficult. So I was like, right, I actually do have to listen to it now because it is screaming at me to stop. But yeah, so I'm like, if you're doing it, then go for it, but just go way less with the reps or way less with the time, both, and then build up. And that's the fun bit, because then you do see that progress. You're like, oh, I was only doing 5 swings on the minute and now I'm doing 10 6 months on or whatever. So yeah, that's where
it is fascinating. I would say, like, obviously, if you don't know, if you're not following Megan at the moment, do look, because the training that she's doing is very different. As she said, it isn't HIIT. It's not HIIT that you're doing, are you? It's a lot of it is anti-psychotic training. And you know, I couldn't do what Megan does right now. I have not done enough reps. I could not be swinging the 44 for the amount of time that Megan does. But it's really good. It is, you know, the learning and you're sharing your experiences. And what I also really like as well, when I look at Megan's pages, I see lots of tasty food popping up as well, because food. You're an advocate of you know, food and nourishing our bodies. You're not we're quite aligned on that as well, around the whole.
I always love your post about it as well, because it's sort of like, if people come to me for weight loss, I try not to hugely focus. I'll obviously tell them about food, but I won't be hugely focusing on what they weigh. I'll be focusing on how they feel and what they're eating, and are they able to continue to get strong in training, and are they sleeping. So and obviously the weight loss comes with that, but I just think this whole scale thing, like I had issues probably about 10 years ago, like I think a lot of people do in the early 20s or late teens, and I was obsessed with weighing myself. Like I was no joke living off like a tin of Weight Watchers soup a day. Like I wasn't anorexic, I wasn't bulimic, but I definitely had, I always talk about like obviously eating disorders, and then the vast majority of people have disordered eating. I'm like, that is not normal. Like and I was like going to the gym twice a day, doing like cardio, and actually when I look at myself now 10 years on, I'm in way better shape when I'm eating more strength training. My swings are my cardio, but I'm not going out on really long runs. I'm not like on a treadmill for hours a day, and a lot of my training isn't as like the 90-minute sessions. It's more just like quick 45 minutes and 3 or 4 times a week, and then I'll do a longer one at the weekend. But I'm fully like advocate of eating to fuel your body, and that's how I view it now. I don't weigh myself. If I've got to weigh in for something, I'll weigh myself, but other than that, I'm sort of like, go off how you feel, go off your clothes. Are you enjoying what you're eating? Like, I'm not going to say to someone, oh, this is how you need to eat. I find that I've worked well fasting, that just works for what I do in terms of my job, the stupid hours we work, and I prefer to fast till maybe this time, sometimes a bit later. But I wouldn't say to one of my clients, go with that, because that works for me. We'd play around with it and work out like what's happy for them. They might be better doing 3 meals a day, but just as long as it's real food, I'm like, just enjoy what you're eating. And if you have a cake, then have it, but then forget about it, because it's you'll know yourself, but like the focusing on, oh, I've just eaten that, I feel horrific, like that is that focus that's not healthy. Like more than the food that you're eating.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And obviously, so you swing your kettlebell, you do a lot of swinging, but you do a lot of other training around that as well, don't you? Obviously, depending where you are in your cycle. You do other stuff as well. So I know you've done barbell stuff in the past, when you've done your going for your certain like lifting sets and stuff. So do you fit any other training in around at the moment, the endurance protocols, or is it very much swing focused?
At the minute it was very much from sort of January onwards this year, swings, because I was peaking for March, and then so I kind of took out all barbell stuff, and then obviously went into lockdown, and I don't have barbells at my house, so I can't wait to be able to get back into deadlifting. The main thing I do with barbell is deadlift, but I'm obviously getting loads and loads of hinging in from the swings. So I kind of, every so often I'll have like a kind of light deadlift day where I'll just use it as a grind, because even though people are like, oh, like you must have a mega heavy deadlift, like your swings like 44, and like there was a video of me doing body weight and people are like, oh, what the hell are you deadlifting? But actually, like my deadlift is like 105 was my 1 rep max last time I did it, and that's fine, that's not my focus. But the grind is very different, even though they do transfer over. And normally when I don't train barbell for a while, it's at the same level, so obviously the swings keep it, but and that's fine for me at the minute. But I'll sometimes throw in kind of like a barbell day where I'm just doing like a lightweight and just using it as a hip hinge but a grind, and then obviously when I'm training for the strong person lifter and stuff, I'll throw bench in and my nemesis overhead press.
I was going to say, what's your move that you don't like, Megan? Come on.
I got one there. But then I talk about that a lot. I'm always joking about how long, like I've got like short body and then long arms and legs, but actually I was like, I don't train press that much, so that's why I'm not good at it. So I'm like, obviously there's certain things where you might not be an amazing presser because you've got longer arms or whatever, but I don't train it a lot. So and when I do train it, I enjoy it. But I'm going to have to, well, we've got our SFG2 reset, haven't we, at some point? So I'm going to have to start training my third bodyweight press again. But I include a lot of Turkish get-ups are always in there. So I've always got Turkish get-ups in my warm. I call it my warm-up, but I suppose it's actually more kind of strength session before my swing session. So I have get-ups in there. I'll always keep like a goblet squat in there. At the minute I have bits of pistol squats and stuff just because I'm training for the bodyweight qualification, and then I'll always have like push-ups and pull-ups just because they don't tend to take a lot out of my swings, but I'm still keeping that push and pull, and I enjoy. I'm not great at bodyweight stuff, so I actually enjoy training it. It's the thing that I've probably had the least practice with, so I do enjoy playing around with that. So that's what's usually in, but I'm looking forward to getting back to like focusing a bit on barbell for a while as well. But like I say, it would normally be deadlift.
I was going to say, obviously you do a lot of swings, but it wouldn't, I guess that's for a purpose. What is your favourite move? Is the swing, I mean, I love kettlebells and swinging.
See, people always say a swing is probably second after get up. I actually think the get up's my favourite move, because I just love how many variations there are and how different it is on each body. Like when I'm training people, I'm like, oh, that looks totally different, but that's again limb length or whatever, or and just that it literally anybody can do it. So obviously people can do the swing, but like I'll teach. So I've got a guy who I'm teaching, he's 85, and he does the get up. He just does it to the kneeling position. He can't lunge up, but I'm like, well, that's fine, because if he gets stuck on the floor, then hopefully he can get to something to then pull himself up. So I love it in terms of that, because it's like one of these amazing like athletic moves, but then also people in their 70s, 80s, 90s can learn variations, and then that carries over to their life. So I think that the get up is probably my favorite move.
It's a very stylish move, isn't it? When it's performed properly and slowly and you're in the moment, it is an incredibly, so I can relate.
I know you've always said you like it as well, and I think it's one of those that looks impressive if you like, but you have to put a lot of practice into it. So it's like if you are doing it, it's like this swing looks good, and a good swing looks like amazing and very athletic, but if you're doing a get up and people are like, whoa God, what's that move? And that tends to be, I rent space in a gym, and when I'm teaching people, that tends to be the movement that everybody else looks at when they're like, and they come to me like, do you know the thing you were doing, what was it? What did I just teach her? And I'm like, oh, the get up. It's always, even if I haven't seen them looking, I'm like, it was probably the get up. Was it this? And they're like, I've never seen that before. I'm like, it's a good move.
It is.
My clients always have stupid, like, so on Christmas Day we always do stupid things, like they'll send videos of like balancing the Christmas dinner and stuff, or like Christmas puddings, because I'm just like, the whole point of like strength training, I'm like, it needs to be fun, like it needs to, people need to be progressing, but there needs to be that like aspect of you just playing. It's all, at the end of the day, it's just so that we all are fine when we're 90. I'm like, all the training I do now is so that when I'm older, hopefully I don't have the hip problems, I don't have, it's all really towards that. So I'm like, if you're not having fun, then what's the point?
I mean that's and I mean I've seen you, obviously you're based in Hebden Bridge, so you're quite a way away from Bristol, so we don't get to train together a huge amount, but I've seen you at the certs, and you're I guess the the spirit you bring with you is, you know, you're very kind of relaxed, fun, joking, approachable, and it helps. I think it helps with people, doesn't it, when you add that element to their training, because all of a sudden it just brings you into a level and people are like, oh, and they start to enjoy and relax, and you feel your body more.
Yeah, and people do get like, you probably had the same, like people think, oh, personal trainer, and like, oh my God, that's like a scary thing for people, or like, oh, they're a strength coach, or like, and to people who've never worked in the gym, that's like a really scary thing. They're going to think it's suddenly like military style, like you're doing 25 press ups, and and that seems to be this image that goes with personal training. And I'm like, to show that people that you are just like totally normal person, like I've made mistakes in training, I'll openly admit what moves I'm bad at, because I'm like, I want to be on that level. We're on the same level. Like, I don't tend to bring up my record unless people ask about it, because I'm like, I don't want to be walking around like, oh, look at me, I've got a world record, like, because that again puts this sort of like, oh, like she must be like crazy, she must make us do loads of swings, and we joke about it and I make them swing, but they don't do anything like my training is my training. That is not what they need. It's not, nobody need, I'm like, with the minute I've done the record, I don't need to be doing 90 minutes of swings, like, and I think that's very important as well, to have that difference between whatever you're doing as a coach in training, that is not what your clients need to be doing. So yeah, if you're doing get-ups, they all need to be doing get-ups, but like the volume of swings, or if you're specializing in something, in like if you're gearing up for martial arts or stuff, you're going up for a belt, like that, not everybody needs to be doing that, and that to me is really important. But yeah, to get on their level.
How did you get into kettlebell? So you said you started them 10, 7
yeah, it was about 10 years ago. So I'll go back to where I was talking about the soup thing. So about eating and stuff. So it was probably when I was about 19, and it kind of, this is all links in with my dad as well, but he had MS for years. So like from me being quite young, I remember him, no, he wasn't bad with it, but like not walking like other dads and stuff. And then it kind of, I got to about 19, 20, and he then started to deteriorate. So we're going about 10 years ago. And then that linked in, and this is something I'll again openly talk about, with me, I started to get really bad health anxiety. So MS isn't hereditary, but I've got double your percent chance of getting it. So you've got 1% chance, I've got 2% chance. So it's still this tiny like percentage, but to me all I focused on was this, like I'm gonna get MS, like I've got double a percent chance of everyone else. So I suddenly started getting very, very stressed, and I think a lot of people have been through anxiety and that horrible sort of like panic attack feel, but just to the point of like I was getting tingling down my arms, and then that made it worse, because I was like, oh my God, like I'm getting pins and needles, like that's MS. So basically all of the physical symptoms of stress were, which I think if you haven't been through something like that, you can't, I can't believe it happened, but like the actual strain that happens to your body, the physical symptoms you get from stress, were all the symptoms of MS. So I was kind of getting headaches and blurred vision, and it was because I wasn't sleeping. Like I was again wasn't sleeping, and I was getting my brain, I was obviously just focusing on things, so I was like, oh my God, my hand's numb, and I went to the doctor and they were like, you're not really going to believe this, but it is stress, like there's nothing, you're young, you're probably unlikely to have MS, and at that point I was like, I can't cope with this, and they put me on antidepressants, and I had it was about, I think I had 12 sessions of CBT over like every other week. Might have even been 6 over 12 weeks. It wasn't a lot. It was on the NHS, and I happened to really gel with the woman who she was my therapist, and she basically was just like, you need to get into strength training, and she was like, I do it, and she was probably about my age now, and I was just like, okay, and I kind of started looking into it, and she was obviously teaching me to sort of like, right, when you get that numbness or when you get that anxiety, like it's probably not that, so just like rewiring your brain, I guess, and I quite quickly after that I was like, right, I don't want to be on the antidepressants anymore, and obviously did the usual thing of like halving them, and ever since then, since I got into training, have never needed needed them, have never had that feeling. And I'm lucky, and I know that obviously that I'm not saying, oh, everyone go out and do that and you'll be perfectly fine. I know that that isn't always the case, and I've not got kids and stuff, so I can focus a lot more on myself, I guess, as well. But I know that's not the case for everyone. But fully do believe that strength training helped me get over sort of that side of it. And now that's why I said it was so important when my dad died, that I was like, I need to have that, even if it's half an hour, like I want to do that for mentally more than anything else. So yeah.
And I think that point that you've said there is, you know, it's a strong body, strong mind, isn't it? Connection. And when you're strength training, you got to connect in, haven't you, and be with your body. Like, you can't be somewhere else, because it leads to injury. And as you know,
if I'm swinging if I'm swinging, it doesn't have to be 44. If I'm swinging 32 kilos, then, and I'm not focusing then on me, then I'll injure myself. But yeah, and that kind of played in then with the food side of it, because I suddenly started to be like, okay, actually, like I need to like be eating to fuel this strength training, and kind of got into it like that. So that kind of got me out of that constantly weighing myself. And again, like I say, I don't even look at the scale unless I need to know what my weight is, and like it's really not important to me. Like if I feel good, or like if I'm happy with how I look and I know that I'm eating well, then I really like the number on the scales doesn't mean anything. But the mental health side, I as well as I was saying about the grief, I really openly talk about that, because nearly every single person I know, from either personally or for teaching them, has been through some sort. It doesn't have to have been the health anxiety, but some sort of anxiety. And the minute you start talking about it, you again become on this level where it's like, that's okay. Like I've been there. I feel you. Like this is my experience. I'll try and help. Like having
a real coach helps, because if I go to someone who I think is a machine or a robot, when I'm not going to connect. Whereas, you know, seeing your honesty across Instagram, speaking to you about it now, I know a lot of people will go, oh wow, so there's this woman, incredibly strong physically, doing this amazing thing, but is also, you know,
being through it. Like it's not that, because people do sort of think, oh, like, and you do put, everyone just post nice things on social media, and it's not like, and that's good, and that's all positive and stuff, but it's like, and I'm fully like, I always try and go with the positive, but it's like, also there is loads that go on before any of this that get you to this point. So it's not like I've just suddenly been like, oh, I'm a 15-year-old athlete, I'm going to build up and do all of this and be a world record holder. It was literally, actually, I've been through a load of rubbish, and strength training helped me, and the record was literally, like say, just kind of a sort of, oh, let's just go for a record. It wasn't, but it kind of was all part of the same thing. It was like, okay, let's go for it. Like but the health anxiety, or like any sort of anxiety, I've seen so many times with any age people, but like definitely kind of that sort of 19, 20, that is, and it seems to be that age where people really, really are like, wow, like, because it's a weird age and a lot's going on. And again, there's a lot, especially at the minute on social media, a lot of looking at stuff like that can cause this awful, like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, or I'm going to get ill. It can be anything, but yeah, mine was, I'm going to get MS. And looking back, it's just like, wow. But then actually I'm always like, every single training session you do or anything like that is always just towards like mentally and physically making you stronger. That's how I view it. So
if you had some advice for somebody looking to get into strength training, because I think sometimes strength training, you say the word strength training and people automatically think the Hulk.
Like,
and it can put people off. But if you have advice, if somebody was looking to get into strength training, what advice would you, if they stopped you on the street and said,
stop me on the street,
hey, I want
I was just about to say, when you said about the Hulk thing, people always say, you're not as strong as you look, and you don't look as strong as you are, and I'm like, oh yeah, I actually take that as a compliment, because I'm like, I just look like a normal person. It's like, good, I'm glad I don't look this way that people think people look when they strength train. It's like, yeah, you might if you specifically train to look like that, but it doesn't always happen. Probably more likely doesn't happen. I would say that definitely that most people do have a reason for it. So I'm like, and definitely in terms of mentally, that would be the reason that I'd say most people get into it. But I would say just pick something that you love. So even if it is swings or something like that, just pick something that you know that you can get better at, something that you know you love and that you're gonna like want to focus on. I always say like play around with different things, but obviously have that main thing that's going to keep you going. But that might be mentally, that might be that your main thing is that this is just going to be half an hour to yourself, that's just going to allow you to be yourself and learn about your own body and just keep progressing with it. Because it's like people and know that you'll get these times, like my training went back 6 months, and know that that's going to happen. It's not always going to be that sort of progressive, like you're always going to get better. Same with weight loss, if that's the goal, you're not always going to lose weight. Christmas, like definitely if I weighed myself now, I would be probably heavier than I was in summer, and that's fine. And just know that there are going to be setbacks. Like it's just life. It's not it's like literally strength training is not like if you miss a session, it's not life or death. It's going to be you can carry on, you can pick up again. Don't have it as like a stress, because that's the thing. People are like, oh, I've missed it, I feel really bad, or oh, I've eaten a biscuit, I feel really bad. Just go with it, and like just see it as just a progressive journey over a long period of time. That's how I look at it, with those setbacks and just a normal life in the way.
Yeah, very good. And that's a brilliant message, I think, to people. So, and obviously, I say, Megan, you are on Instagram, aren't you? So there'll be people listening to this who may not know your handles on Instagram. So if people want to follow you and look at what's happening with your world record and wherever you go next, you know, what's your
it's Megan.Kelly. Just the number 1. So Megan.Kelly1. But
when I do share this, I'll put it in the link anyway.
But it's exciting. Although it's exciting if you like swings, my Instagram, or cats. I've got my annoying flatmate's cat.
Oh yeah, I see regular things in the stories of the cat just staring at me.
Well, my flatmate's not annoying, her cat's annoying.
Just to be clear.
I love you. I do love you, Harry. No, she's hilarious, the cat. She just she sits there, and I'm like, when I'm teaching, especially my classes in the morning, I'm like, I think she's the mood of my clients. So she sits there like eye rolling, and I'm like, hi everyone, it's 7 a.m, you've got to be happy. And then I've like turned the camera to her, and it's like mood. But yeah, she does
look like she's got a little look on her face. And obviously you're in tier 3 at the moment, so as we record this, it's December, so when people it's out, it might be later, but you're in tier 3, so you're predominantly online coaching at the moment.
Predominantly online, so I've got bits and pieces. I can do personal training in public gyms, which I'm currently doing, but most people are happy online at the minute, just because kettlebells transfer very easily online, and we've all done like a challenge, like we were getting 10 press-ups for Christmas and stuff, just like focusing on stuff that can easily be done at home, and people have progressed and we're all good. So I'm just like, we're all predominantly online, but we'll see what comes out. Is it tomorrow or whatever?
Thankfully, it's a new one. I don't know. I'm all lost.
But you're tier 3 as well, aren't you? We're all online.
We're all tier 3. But so I want to just say thank you so much for sharing. I've learned a lot just from listening to you today, and it is really inspiring to hear about your story and everything you've kind of experienced, not just with getting the world record holder, but opening up as well about losing your dad and everything. So I really want to say thank you so much, because I
would say thank you for inviting me on as well. When you asked me, I was like, oh really? I was like, if you want to speak to me, but
absolutely.
I'm very happy to have shared it all, and I hope it helps people either starting their strength journey or just like getting into it, or those who are on it already and want to know that it's not all like Instagram shows. You don't always make all this amazing progress, and so hopefully people take that away from it.
I'm sure it will resonate with a lot of people, and I'm sure Megan, like I say, Megan's Instagram is great. Do check it out. And thank you very, very much for taking the time to speak to us and to share your
so much.
And we will be looking forward to hearing the new date for the world record.
For the record. I'm quite excited to hear too. I'm like, when are we allowed out?
Well, that's it. I'll be more excited because we're allowed out.
If not, I'm just like, right, we're doing it live. I'll have to do something like that. But yes.
Well, hopefully I'll be able to come and see you.
I hope you can.
And we can cheer you on, and
lots of support, lots of screaming in my face.
I'm good at screaming.
And then lots of food after. That's what I'm good at. That's the only reason I like training, because of the amount I get to eat. The best bit.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Megan. We will share this with everyone, and look forward to watching how kind of things just roll over the next few months, and best of luck with all your training, and have a lovely crimbo.
Yes, you too, Han.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.